Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow counselors, and welcome to Scary Stories by the Campfire. We are your counselors, Jeremy,
And Jason.
and tonight we are talking about Kane Hodder's final movie in screen time as the great Jason Voorhees, Jason X. Jason, you want to take it?
Oh, Jason X, what do we say about this one? It was much better than Jason Goes to Hell, that's for certain. Um, this movie, let's be honest, this movie is not a good movie. All right, it's not like per se a good movie, but here's the thing about it. It's kind of like a part of me wants to compare it kind of to like let's say The Evil Dead, right? The Evil Dead, the first movie was meant to be a serious film, but I guess with the way that it was shot and kind of the amateur feel of it, it was campy. You could kind of poke fun at it, even though it wasn't meant to be poked fun at. The second movie, they came in and shot it as part horror, part comedy, right? And it had that perfect blend, which in this instance, I believe part six, Friday the 13th, part six, did that well. It still had like horror elements to it, but it was more comedic. It was funnier, and the jokes were relatively well written. It wasn't like it was just being silly to be silly. Then you get to like Army of Darkness, which I think they flipped the whole script. There's like no horror to that. It's just straight up comedy with like little itty bits of what would you would think would be horror. This is what this movie is. This movie is nothing but comedy. There's not like a scary moment in this entire movie. And to an extent, I think that works because some of the jokes actually are kind of funny. But for a Friday the 13th movie, it's not the best thing. Okay, I still think part 6 is going to be it's going to top it off. But this movie is much better, much better than say Jason Goes to Hell or part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, or even for even for that matter, part 7, The New Blood. The New Blood. But we were watching this on Monday, and we were just having a ball with it because you can. That's what I feel. That's what it was made for, and I think the studio knew that because this movie is this movie's a filler. That's all this is. They had a setup after Jason Goes to Hell with the Freddy Krueger claw coming out of the ground, dragging his mask in. They're like, the next movie's gonna be Freddy versus Jason, since we own both those properties. It's gonna be that movie, and then they try to make it, and they try to write the script, and they had just so many problems that the movie never got done. And to keep the audience relatively interested, I don't know if it was an interest thing, they were trying to keep the audience involved in it, or if it had something to do with they had to make a movie, using the property after X amount of years, or they lose it. But they pretty much created this thing, and it's a filler. It's just to tide over until Freddy versus Jason. But I think it works in its own right. It's just this goofy, campy movie.
Very campy, very goofy, very over the top. Um, just with everything that it does. Kane Hodder obviously coming back to fill in the role of Jason and gets more screen time than when Jason Goes to Hell, uh, by a lot. And we get Uber Jason
Uber
towards the
Jason.
end of the movie.
The The Uber Jason was a nice touch. I did like the Uber Jason.
All like pure muscle and metal. I thought it
Yeah,
was.
and it was so funny. Like in this movie, he got blown. He got blown up. He got blown up in this movie, and
Not really. He just had his body limb shot off.
yeah, but I mean, he kind of. Hey, did you see his head? His head didn't just come off. That thing exploded. Like he didn't have a head. Just, but this movie, you know, it's a filler because it references nothing from the other movies. Nothing. He shows up. I guess. Okay, let's go through the plot, Jeremy. In the beginning, he is trapped in a lab with scientists. They have captured the what is now legendary or infamous Jason Voorhees
At the
and they
Crystal
thought
Lake Research Facility.
at the Crystal Lakes Research Facility, and I guess the government was first planning on trying to capture him and destroy him, but then they decided, you know what, we got an invincible soldier right here. Let's keep him. That didn't work. He killed them.
Yep.
Uh, and then he got cryogenically frozen with the final girl, and it ended up lasting what 400 years? Did they say?
It was 2544. Or yeah, 2544. No,
I don't know.
2455.
All I know is they launched him in the future. They're so far in the future that people are taking spaceships to get around. Apparently, Earth One was completely dead, couldn't sustain life or anything. But he ends up getting up, and Jeremy, how does Jason wake up?
Oh, he premarital sex.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. They have him unconscious on a slab in the research science wing of this spaceship or whatever, and two college students, because I think it was like some sort of college research vessel or something. They were out. I think that even the captains, it was like a field trip,
It was.
but it was so weird because you have this ship full of college students, but they also bunked a bunch of marine grunts, and I don't know. This movie, like I said, this movie's a mess, but it's a fun mess. And yeah, two of the students are just they're in their room having sex, and he's just like, oh, and the sound effects, the sound effects. I swear to God, they had the sound effects where he sits up, he's like, "Moing," sound like a cartoon. Oh God. And then he just went on a murder rampage, and
But it led
I
to
think,
one of the coolest kills right there at the beginning to start it off,
yes,
where he takes Adrian and
the
dumps
height,
her head in
the
liquid
liquid
nitrogen, freezes it, pulls it out, and then just smashes it on the table, shattering her entire face just everywhere.
And see, this is what I like about Kane Hodder's Jason. The other Jasons, the earlier movie Jasons, they were very simplistic, and a lot of times the kills were off screen. Like he just like stabs someone or hits him in the face with a machete, and they let gravity do the rest. Um, I think Roy Burns may have had some of the more creative ones where you actually use like the belt to crush that guy's head and use the garden shears to stab that woman's eyes out. But other than that, I mean, it's still just kind of stabbing and whatnot. Kane Hodder's Jason is just brutal. He
Yep.
don't care, and there is just like this animalistic nature to him. Like he gets up, he just grabs the woman by the head. And I think he's actually got her kind of like in a chokehold too. And he's taking her over to the nitrogen. She's kicking, oh my God, please, please, please. And he's got her head. He grabs her by the back of the head and just shoves her head. And then when it freezes, he picks it up, gives it a little look, and then just smashes her head on the countertop, picks it up, looks at it, throws it to the side, and walks on. And there's just this kind of almost this brutal strength to him. There's not like this I'm gonna just stab you and be done with it. But I will say the humor did get a little over the top. These people were acting in the most unrealistic way possible.
Oh yeah, they did.
I mean, like I said, a lot of the fun moments, they're fun, but you have to shut your brain off for this one. Don't go into it going, "Oh my god, why did they?" Because there's one scene where he knocks the one Marine grunt off, and he lands on that big drill or whatever, and he starts spinning. He starts spinning down the drill, right? Which is funny in of itself. You don't have to do nothing with that. Okay, he just and then he spins right on down, and that's funny. But then when you have the other grunt show up, and the commander or whatever his name is on the radio, he's like, "Hey, where's so and so?" And they're like,
"He's screwed."
Like, oh god, you almost ruined that whole thing. You almost ruined it. Okay, you don't need those puns.
So, while this film was a critical and financial failure in its initial release into theaters, it made more than triple the cost of production in DVD and post-theater sales. Statistically, it is one of the most successful Friday the 13th films.
I think it's successful because it's just so goofy. You know, it's not heavy on gore. You know, I mean, yeah, you get to kind of see the interior of that woman's face, and the pilot, he got chopped all up or skinned or something. He was just all over the place. But yeah, it's not like an extremely intense, gory film. It is very funny. You know, you get you a couple drinks, it's even more funny, even more hilarious. But yeah, it's just definitely a good movie. Like I said, some of the acting is a bit hokey, and I maybe it's just me, but they were kind of like taking elements from other movies. Like they had aliens in there.
Oh yeah, that's all it was. That's all it was different things. But then going back to your one-liners that you were talking about, when what's her name dies right at the end, the last one who gets sucked through the tiny hole. She's like, "Oh, this sucks on so many levels." Whoopsie.
Yeah, she's being. No human would think that. No human is holding on for dear life to a grate in the floor, and they're just being they're being sucked out of a pressurized room into space. If anyone's seen Alien Resurrection, it's the same thing. It's just all the air is being sucked out of this room or whatever, and she's holding on for dear life. It's this dramatic moment, and they're trying to reach for. They're like, "Give me your hand," and they're reaching, and she just looks and she goes, "Oh, this sucks on so many levels," and then out she goes. It's like no one would ever say that if they were like on the brink of death like that.
But one of my favorite characters in the entire movie had one of the best, like, he didn't die, but it was a great line, and it was Sergeant Brodsky, where Jason like grabs him through the wall, and he stabs him through his side, and he's like, "It's gonna take more than a little poke to put this old dog down." So he sticks him with the machete through the other side, and he's like, "Yep, that'll do it."
And then he just kind of quote unquote dies right there. So.
Oh, I thought it was great.
Sergeant, that's what he was. He was the sergeant.
Yeah, I thought that actor was great.
I think this. It also had an enjoyable cast. Like I said, there's a lot of one-liners. Of the grunts. The grunts are entirely useless. They show up just to die.
They really
weird
did.
names too. It was like Condor, Gecko. Got Animal Patrol out here.
Crutch.
But Crutch was what was he? An engineer?
Yeah, he was the
Yeah,
engineer dude.
and we couldn't figure out what his name was.
Then you
I,
had
we thought it was Grudge.
then you had Fat Lou who was the pilot.
That was his name.
Yeah,
Wait,
Fat
that was the pilot's name.
yeah Fat
Or
Lou.
was that? Oh, okay. I thought you was like talking about like that was the actor.
No, the actor's name is Boyd Banks, but his name on the movie
Fat Lou. Okay.
Fat Lou. You had uh KM14.
Yeah, she was the robot, the android or the AI or whatever.
Suneron, who was the nerd.
Oh, who was the guy who built her?
Yep.
Which is a bit weird because this is one of the only movies where you have multiple survivors in the end. I think there's like 3 of them altogether.
And then of course Rowan, who is our final girl, and Keensa, who played our Melody Johnson, who played Keensa, who was the one who she was the one who died at the last one to die.
Okay.
No. Keensa wasn't. No, Keensa was the one who locked herself in the ship and like launched her
Oh my god.
with the fuel line still attached.
She was so panicky and so just like distraught that when they were trying to make their escape in the escape shuttle, she locked herself in, and when everyone was like, "Hey, just let us in. We'll all get out of here." She decided, "No, I'm too scared to come back in and let you guys in. I don't want to die. I'm gonna put this thing in drive and go." And they're like, "You forgot the fuel cable," and that thing just right into the bottom of the ship and blew up.
Janessa was the one who dies at the end.
Yeah, Vanessa.
No, not Vanessa. Janessa, with a J.
Oh, Janessa.
She's played by Melissa Aid. So,
And speaking of death, Jeremy, I want to say that Jason X, no matter if you're a Nightmare fan, no matter if you're a Halloween fan, or even a Leprechaun fan, no one is getting a body count like Jason in this one. He took out a whole space station with one machete. That was it. He just killed the pilot. Took out a whole space station. The whole thing blew up.
Did it though? Because that was some terrible CGI.
Oh yes, it was very terrible CGI. This movie did have some. You know what I just thought about, Jeremy?
What was that?
As campy as this movie was, and I don't know what the budget of this movie was, but when we started watching it on Monday, this movie literally felt like a straight-to-TV movie. The quality of it was just absurdly cheap looking. I don't know if it's just me, but it looked like it belonged on television. Like it was filmed on like a television.
Yeah, I get that. Budget was estimated to be 11 million.
What? 11 million? They spent all that on those fancy grunt suits.
You mean the things that look like plastic that were like shaking up and down under their chin?
Yeah, they were very cheap looking. This movie looked very cheap, but you know what? I guess that doesn't take away from the campiness of it. You know, it's cheap, or it's cheap visuals, it's hokey acting, and a very absurd plot, and it just makes this trifecta of. It's not The Room. It's not The Room where everything is just so wrong, but it just fits just fine. It's like a nice puzzle piece. It's like a fine wine. The longer this thing sits out, the better. Oh.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, they did like you were saying, there were a lot of freaking references to other stuff in it. Like you had the alien references in Aliens, where he was just picking them off one at a time. Mm-hmm. You had the Doom reference with the BFG.
Oh God!
And by the way,
game good. Doom movie bad.
So let's reference it in our Friday the 13th movie.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! Because Jim Isaac wanted the acting in his film to blow every other Friday movie out of the water, the rehearsals were videotaped on a camcorder, who would review them afterward and get ideas from seeing his characters in action. The problem was that with all the script rewrites, a lot of the time Isaac didn't even know if what the actors were rehearsing was still going to be in the movie.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the acting didn't blow anything away. Blew the seriousness right out of the water, so grade A on that. But yeah, the acting in this movie was
Yeah.
pretty bad.
They almost brought in Betsy Palmer, who was in a play in Ontario where the movie was filmed, but they couldn't agree on anything.
Well, yeah, she thought the one movie that she was in was horrible. She was in the first one. She didn't even like it. What makes you think she's gonna come back for this one? I mean, maybe by this point her feelings on the movie have changed. I think her feelings on the movies have changed. She's a bit more. I know when we were talking about the first one, the original, she did not like the first movie at all. Like she just thought it was like a sleazy, slasher movie or whatever. And but I guess over time she's grown to like it more since people know her much better from it.
So, apparently several of the characters in the film are named after the screenwriter Todd Farmer's online friends in the PC game EverQuest.
Gecko, Condor, Brodsky,
Crutch. That's what we're going to do, Jason. We're going to go on our World of Warcraft accounts. I'm going to create Gecko. You're going to be Condor.
Use that name. No, those names are going to be taken. You're going to have to be changing those things. Now you could do like a Sergeant Crutch. That might work.
Look, Sergeant Brodsky had the best death of the entire movie, though. Hands down. He had the best death of the entire series so far. No questions asked.
Wait, actually, how do you know he's dead, Jeremy? That man's so strong. He could have had metal inside him. He coming down looking like the Terminator.
That man literally rode Jason through the atmosphere and rode him into the earth too.
Yeah, that's by far one like the biggest finales ever, because the 3 remaining survivors get on the
It's
little.
not 3. No. It's 2 1/4.
2 1/4. The robot only had the head. But they get on the little rescue ship that came to rescue them before the whole ship blew up. And as the ship's blowing up, they look out the window there, and here he comes flying right at them. Is Jason Voorhees. I mean, not even the explosion stopped them. It actually launched him at them, and he's just got this angry look. He's just like, ooh, and then all of a sudden he gets sideswiped by Sergeant Brodsky, and yeah, Sergeant Brodsky pretty much just gets on his back and just right into Earth 2's atmosphere, and they just light up like a shooting star. And where do they land, Jeremy? Where do they land?
Next to a lake with 2 people, and they're like, "Look, a shooting star! You gotta make a wish."
It's probably like Earth 2 Crystal Lake. Why am I not surprised? Jason always finds his way home.
Oh.
Crystal Lake on Mars, he'd find it.
Wow. So the idea of Uber Jason originated in a rejected Freddy vs. Jason script written by Brandon Braga in '94. In the script, Jason and his movies is only movies, but are based on the real life Jason was on trial for his murders, as the main heroine is his defense lawyer, inspired by the O.J. Simpson trials, as Freddy Krueger tries to enter out of Jason's chest into the reality. Once Freddy enters order, he kills people in a shopping mall, which is then set on fire, and during the theaters plays a new Jason movie titled Jason 2010, which features a cardboard standee of a cybernetic Jason in a metal hockey mask.
Did you just say that they were gonna treat Jason as an O.J. Simpson trial?
Kind of.
Hey, Raven is saying I am too low on the volume. Think that's a me thing, or you think it's a you thing,
I don't know.
or a
That should.
system thing?
That.
Hold on,
We'll see if that fixes it.
here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Go, go, go. Test, test, test.
That should be better.
Testing. Huh?
That should be better.
Is it better, guys?
So
Hello.
it's almost like they were gonna treat Freddy vs. Jason originally as a new Nightmare style movie, where the Friday the 13th movies were based off of a real event.
Yeah, I mean, I think Freddy versus Jason, there's a lot of stuff that it's hard to categorize where you would put these movies. Because it seems like each one changes and they don't really reference anything beforehand. Like, none of these movies are going to reference the slug. The slug thing from Jason Goes to Hell is the only time I think it's ever referenced. He got blown up in this movie. Leg shot off, head blown off. I want to see that little wormy thing come running out and try to possess someone. But no, we ain't going to get that no more. Why bring it up?
They're saying that some people say the character Waylander is sometimes referred to as Wayland, such as a character named Dallas. This is also a reference to the alien as a company in the series of Wayland-Yutani.
Dallas.
Yeah, there's a Dallas in this movie.
Dallas was Wayland was co-owner to Wayland-Yutani. Right?
Yeah,
That's what you said, right?
yeah. So
Dallas was actually the captain of the Nostromo.
Yeah.
In the original Alien, which ironically we're running way off topic here, but it's all space themed anyway. Apparently, Ridley Scott did Alien, right?
Yep.
He did the original Alien. He also did Blade Runner. Apparently, those two movies actually share a universe.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think they do reference something alien related in Blade Runner, but in the new Blade Runner movie, Blade Runner 26, whatever the new Blade Runner is, the one that's got Jared Leto and
Harrison Ford.
well, no, the other guy, guy from The Notebook. What's his name?
Oh, I don't know.
Whatever. That movie, there's actually a scene, I think, in the movie where you get to see Jared Leto's character who runs the big corporation in the movie. He's actually got like a list of other corporations, and one of them is Wayland-Yutani. I don't know if it's just kind of a nod to Alien but they do, make a reference to Wayland-Yutani in the original. I think you see like a sign or something. So it's kind of like an unofficial, like, same universe type thing.
So what's funny is the writer of this movie is actually in this movie. He dies.
Who?
Dallas is played by Todd Farmer, who wrote the movie. He is the bald dude who died in the simulation room with that kid. When Jason broke the dude's back.
Oh, yeah. That was the writer?
Yeah, the bald dude
that was Dallas?
Yeah.
Of course he's gonna name himself Dallas.
But he wrote another horror movie we're going to talk about later on in the future.
Oh boy, what?
The remake of My Bloody Valentine.
Oh, actually, yeah, because he has that one scene he's the truck driver in that one.
Yeah.
He pops up as the truck driver in that one, and if
gets killed in that too.
Yeah, well, he was kind of a sleaze in that one. I mean, he wrote a scene where a woman runs around butt naked for like 10 minutes.
Very true.
Yeah, I mean, and she is stark naked.
But yet he didn't want to write the scene originally about at the end the virtual reality campers, which by far is one of the greatest scenes in the world.
Yeah, if they cut that entire scene out, this movie is trash. Because that is like the best. That was the best setup ever, and it was just that scene alone
Oh my god, it was so much fun.
is almost a comedic masterpiece. Like he's walking to them as they're trying to open up the hatch so they can get to the rescue ship. And the one guy comes up with the idea. He's like, "I'm gonna distract him." So he puts on this hologram of Crystal Lake. Jason is mildly confused, but then I guess he sees the guy and starts making his way towards him. They're like, "Oh God, he knows we're gonna have to distract him." So they put out these two camp girls.
You want to smoke some pot? Or have some premarital sex?
Yeah, you wanna drink a beer, or you wanna
Smoke some pot?
yeah. And they take their tops off and they crawl into these sleeping bags. And Jason just kind of like looks at them. He stares at them, and then he takes a step forward, and it cuts back to the survivors, and they're trying to get the hatch open or whatever. And they said, "Oh, how much longer do you think we have?" And they look back out, and comedic timing. He's sitting there he's got one of them in a sleeping bag, tied up, and he's beating the other one, who's also tied up in her sleeping bag, and he's beating her up. And I'm like, this is just funny. And then when he gets done, he slaps her up against the tree, and I don't know. I think that was I think the tree thing was a Kane Hodder. I think that was specifically him. So now that I'm thinking about it, Kane Hodder just seems like a mean guy. If that's what he's coming up with. But I'm pretty sure they said that was his idea. Could be wrong on that, but I think a lot of the stuff he does in these movies are kind of improvs of stuff. That's why he's my favorite. He's my favorite Jason.
So in the
Still not
scene
the scariest though.
where Stoney opens the door, first off, what do you name your guy Stoney?
Stoney. Who was Stoney?
Stoney was that dude who went with the girl when Jason was in the research room. It was
he was one of the ones who quote unquote woke Jason.
Yeah. So according to that scene, and the blood sprays in Keensa's face, it was a real reaction because apparently the effects guys weren't supposed to spray the blood liquid onto her face, and it was accidental. She was screaming not because she just saw her boyfriend die, but because the fake blood substance was burning her eyes.
Oh my god. You would think they would have better control of these things. I mean, if I can see accidents happen. I mean, like, on-set accidents are not a common or are not an uncommon thing. People get hurt in these things all the time. I mean, I remember when they were talking about the actor from Transformers 2. Was that Revenge of the Fallen? Yeah. Remember that scene where they were out in the desert?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see that one, Jeremy?
Yeah.
And the big Devastator was like just sucking in all that sand and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he was having to hold on while all that sand. They had these big, I guess to do the scene, they had these big giant fans that were blowing the sand, right? He had so much sand in his eyes.
Who was this?
That
Shia LaBeouf?
No, this was the other guy, that weird,
okay.
that weird goofy character. But he had so much sand in his eyes, they had to go out and like flush out his entire eye. I'm like, that's just. Did no one even think of this? It's like, we're gonna just blow sand in your face, try to keep your eyes shut, while we have these two giant hurricane fans blowing at you. Yeah.
So
Things happen.
going off of what you were saying earlier about the sleeping bag, I just found it. It was originally done in the New Blood, which when we get to the remake, they've modified the sleeping bag death, but
Oh God. Let me tell you.
we'll get to that one. I don't want to
Oh
spoil
yeah,
that one.
that one's. Oh, that is pain.
But it was actually ad-libbed by Kane Hodder, like you said,
Wait,
because
the whole sleeping bag thing, or just the tree thing?
uh all of it,
Oh God.
because
Of course
he
it
was frustrated at all the reshootings of shooting the same scene over and over again. Apparently, he was getting tired of doing the same exact scene, so he just started ad-libbing it and just letting out his frustrations.
And perfect. There you go. You got one of the best scenes in the movie. One of the
It was
best.
just so funny.
It is, and it was. I think is also the comedic timing because they're like, "Oh, how much longer do we got?" And it pans over, and he's just beating this thing into the ground. It's like, and every time you hit him, they're like, "Ow, ow, ow," because they're fake holograms. But oh God, this
But,
movie.
but
This
one
movie's
of the
a train.
dumbest deaths had to be Professor Lowe.
Was he even a professor?
Yeah, he was the dude trying to sell him.
Yeah, but I don't think he was a professor.
Yeah, he
He
was.
reminded me. He reminded me of that guy from Burke from Aliens, played by
Yeah.
um, Paul Paul Reiser.
But it was just
He was
funny
trying.
because he's like, "It's okay, guys. He just wanted his machete back."
Yeah, this ship was full of idiots. This whole ship was full of idiots. Every one of them.
So, Jason, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give Jason X or Jason 10?
I'm gonna give this movie a 7. I'm gonna give it a 7, primarily because it keeps your interest. You can sit there, okay? If you're one of those people who sits there and goes, "Wow, this movie's stupid. I don't do stupid movies," you're not gonna enjoy it. It's a stupid movie. It's a badly written movie. It's a silly movie, but it is a funny movie. It does have very fun bits. Now, I will admit that a lot of the acting is very cheesy, and some of the lines are kind of silly. They kind of go over the top. The whole scene with Suck and the Screwed and some of that it's a little over the top. But I mean, overall, the movie's fun. It's interesting when you change it up a little bit. I know everyone's been to space now. My God, there's been more horror characters in space than actual astronauts at this point. I mean, Pinhead's been there, Leprechaun's been there, Jason's been there.
Old
The
Mikey
only bring,
hasn't.
the only, not yet. Give him another remake and he'll make it. The only person who hasn't made it yet is Freddy, and that's probably because there's not enough astronauts up there to dream. Then they don't have an Elm Street up there. Leatherface. Oh, Leatherface is never gonna leave Texas. That's no problem. He's a homeboy.
So
But
I
yeah,
give it a 6.
Oh,
There's just no connection to anything else. And yeah, it is a stupid movie, and if you go in with any kind of seriousness to it, you aren't going to like it. But the continuity, just like in Jason Goes to Hell, is completely shot. But the characters save it. Kane Hodder saves it. The overall campiness saves it. But the biggest thing that brought it down lower for me personally is CGI was just god awful. It was like watching, Nintendo GameCube graphics on my screen.
yeah. Actually, I think we did mention that when we were watching some of the scenes. We're like, oh, like when they were fighting the big monsters in the simulator thing.
Oh
That
yeah.
thing, literally looked like the opening cutscene to like the original Diablo game. And I'm not saying that the CGI of the Diablo game was bad, because it was good for that time, which was what, 90 something? 1990. I'm gonna go with 1998. When did this movie come out? This movie came out like 2000 something, I think.
This movie came out in I think 2002. Um, the original Diablo came out in '97.
97. So I'm comparing a movie that came out after the 2000s to a game that came out, a computer game that came out in 97. That is bad. I mean, at least
2002.
this came out 2002. So, yeah, I mean, actually, you know what? I take that back. The graphics in Diablo were better because at least if you had like the really kind of garbagey looking monster, it was because the whole thing was kind of garbagey. This one you had live action, you had that thing. What I give it a 7?
Yeah.
You gave it a 6. Looks like Ravenfire gave it an 8. You said it was
Ooh.
funny, different characters. Uber Jason. Yeah, Uber Jason was actually pretty cool. It's really sad to know that they were having that lawsuit issue recently. I think they may have got it settled now,
Oh, I know
but
it.
they were having, huh?
I said I know it sucks.
Yeah, they were having for a while. They were having a lawsuit issue about who had the rights to Jason and all this of stuff, and they actually did have a Friday the 13th game out. Me and Jeremy play it every now and then if the servers decide they want to work. But they did actually have plans at one point because they were releasing like little updates here, little updates there, and they did actually have plans to release a map based on the Grendel, which was the ship in this movie, and to release Uber Jason as a playable character. But with that lawsuit, they actually had to shut down everything with the game. Oh, I mean, the game could still activate, but they weren't allowed to release anything new for the game. Absolutely nothing. They couldn't add no new character skins or anything like that. So the game is essentially just frozen in time right now, and it's fun, but now that we got games like the Evil Dead, and I think they said they got a Texas Chainsaw game coming out, kind
They
of
do.
plays the same. I haven't seen anything on that one yet. I want to
Everybody's
put
going off the Dead by Daylight formula. But
yeah.
here's a good one for you. How many people does Jason kill when he becomes Uber Jason?
Oh my God, did he? Oh, one person.
0.
Well, I mean, technically, yeah, I was about to say, I was like, technically, he didn't kill Janessa, but he did have a hand in it because he is the one who ripped the hole open. But
Waylander blows himself up.
yeah,
Janessa goes through the hole, and the two girls in the virtual room aren't real.
yeah, so technically he didn't kill anyone.
Um,
Uber Jason with the uberest score of all.
and then
0.
Stoney's death was actually not supposed to be him being stabbed, but it was supposed to be, I guess, Jason taking the metal door and slicing him in half with it, kind of like oh my God, I'm drawing a mind blank. Matthew Lillard in 13 Ghosts, where it slices him in half.
No, Matthew Lillard wasn't sliced in.
Or not Matthew Lillard, the lawyer. Sorry.
The lawyer. Yeah, when you got the.
Yeah.
And he had like this whole front half, and it was a glass door, so you got to see his innards too. So when the door closed, the front half just went and slid down, and you got to see like all the good grisly bit. Which reminds me, when we do that movie, because we will, if I have to pick it myself, we're gonna have to see if we can find a copy of the original.
Wow.
Wow, what?
So, last little fun fact, because I think it's just the most random thing in the world. Okay. In the original script, during the VR scene, Jason
Wait,
was
which VR scene?
when they put Jason into it.
All right.
He was also supposed to encounter a human bunny, a group of topless girls playing volleyball, a dwarf cowboy on a tricycle, a dominatrix, a cheerleader, and a giant turtle.
What?
In shooting script, he instead sees a 12-foot tall giant bunny rabbit, which hops away. Rowan was also supposed to appear in the woods to distract him by insulting him and giving her a more prominent final girl moment, revealing to be a fake Rowan once he hacks her.
I want to see a 12-foot tall bunny.
I want to see Jason fight a giant turtle.
My God. What about that little man on a tricycle? What did you say, midget cowboy?
A little dwarf on a cowboy on a tricycle.
A little dwarf on a tricycle. Oh my God. What were they smoking to do this thing? No wonder it went through so many reshoots. So stupid.
Oh my God.
No, I think the way the movie is right now is the way it should be. I think if they would have added giant bunnies and giant turtles and stuff like that, I think the movie would have actually been a little bit worse. Because I think it would have gone over the top. I think it just fit just fine the way it was.
So, then what would you rate Jason on a scale of 1 to 10?
Technically, wouldn't this be 2 Jasons?
No, it's all 1.
What? You can't count Uber Jason. The Uber Jason is his own thing. I mean, he got a new head for crying out loud.
Well, we didn't count Wormy Jason as his own thing.
Oh God, get that thing out of here! Nobody wants that, not even this movie. I'm gonna go with a. I'm gonna go with probably like a 6. No, you know what? I'm gonna give it a 5 on the first Jason.
All right, on the second one.
On Uber Jason, I'm gonna give him a 6. I'm gonna give him I give the first one a 5 because there's nothing really impressive about him. I mean, he does have like that physicality and stuff like that. He just looks kind of goofy with that little mini fro thing he had going on, like when he was in the prison.
Oh yeah.
And you do get kind of get to see like, it's weird because you get to see under his mask. Like they cut the one girl cuts his mask off. And lifts it, and she's like, "Oh, you poor baby," and because he had like this really messed up face. But it didn't really seem like that when he was wearing the mask. Like when he was wearing the mask, he had like normal eyes and stuff. And really, most of his his kills were off screen anyway, so not so much fun. Uber Jason, I give a point above because first of all, he's like Cyber Jason. He just and it is so funny to watch him react to bullets. Because I don't know if like at some point maybe he just has a fear of bullets or something because he's always getting shot. But this one he's getting shot. He's just looking. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm bulletproof. This is amazing." And he's just had this. You can almost see the hatred in his eyes. He had like these red eyes, and they're just always like very mean looking.
They look like Sith eyes.
Yeah, but yeah, I only give him a step up because Uber Jason, and he's a Jason who gets his own name apparently.
So
Uber Jason.
I'm gonna give Kane Hodder's Jason a 6 as the OG, just because it's Kane Hodder. I mean, he put so much into the role. But I give Uber Jason a 5 because he didn't kill anybody.
That is true. Okay, so we've rated our Jasons. Let's go through the list one more time. You have them written down, so
I do.
Start. Huh?
I said I do.
Okay, let's start with yours. Let's go down. Write down the list.
So in part 2, I gave a 5 then a 7,
Uh huh.
then a 7,
Uh huh.
then a 7.5. So
Uh huh.
that's 2, 3, 4. Part 5, I gave an 8.
Uh huh.
Part 6, I gave an 8.5.
Uh huh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
You
9, 10.
write the part numbers next to it.
Yeah, I did. 7 was an 8.5. Yep. 8 was an 8. 9 was a 3. And this was a 6/5.
Okay, what am I?
For you, part 2 was a 6. Part 3 was a 7.
Uh huh.
Or, no, part 3 was a 5, sorry.
Uh huh.
Part 4 was a 7. Part 5 was a 7. 6, 7, and 8 are all 8s. 9 is a 3, and X is a 5 and a 6.
So it seems like. Okay, what were your first three? Were those your highest? Where were your highest ones?
My highest was 6, 7, and 8.
So 6, 7, and 8 were your highest,
Yes.
and mine were 6, 7, and 8 were my highest.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're officially looking at is that 6, 7, and 8 were the best Jasons. Is what we're looking at.
Kane Hodder and 6.
Well, I'm gonna. So we got two more Jasons to rate. We have Freddy versus Jason, and we have
Mountain Man
remake.
Jason.
We got Mountain Man Jason. I'm gonna tell you what. Mountain Man Jason, he's going to the top. He's going to the top. We're gonna watch this movie. He's going to the top.
We've said it before, and we'll say it again. Mountain Man Jason, he knows where it's at.
He
is. Does you want to smoke some pot?
Yeah, he's not going to just beat you with a sleeping bag. He will brutalize you. I know. I'm just saying he's gonna brutalize you, because I'll tell you what. I don't know. I know the new movie was done by Platinum Dunes. I don't know who wrote it and who directed it or anything like that. I just know that it came from like a Michael Bay thing. But this Jason is by far. When I sit here and tell you that Kane Hodder does like a very brutal Jason in this movie, like Kane Hodder in general, his Jasons are pretty much brutal. They're just these kind of muscular, like his movements are so precise. Like if he's gonna smash your head into something, he's smashing your head into.
The new one was written
no
by Damian Shannon and Mark Swift.
And there's no like playing around. It's not like I'm gonna sneak up behind you and kind of grab you and choke you a little bit, and then maybe stab you in the stomach. No, he's like, I'm just gonna crush your head. But this Jason is so brutal in the remake. Oh,
yeah. And
like the first time I watched it, I was like, that's.
Yeah, and he's played by Derek Mears, which we talked about last week.
Yeah, but we'll get to that movie when we get to that movie. We got actually, when I was looking at the calendar, we have next Wednesday. We have Freddy vs. Jason. The Wednesday after that is the Nightmare remake, and the Wednesday after that is the Friday the 13th remake. And guess what, boys and girls? That is the end of the year.
Yes,
we will
it is.
We will be rolling into 2023 with, I believe, a single that Jeremy will be picking out, and we will announce that at the end of the year when we do the Friday remake. And then it'll either be, I think I picked the series after that.
Yep.
I'm either gonna pick a series or I'm gonna pick the single first, just kind of depending on how I want to play it, and then vice versa. So Jeremy will get the single in January, or to start everything off, and then I'll either do a single in the series and then do the series and the single after that, or whatever.
Well, before we go, we still got one more thing. My favorite section.
Tomato time.
It is tomato time. So, tomato meter.
Tomato meter.
19%.
Critic-wise.
Critic-wise. Critics did not like this movie.
19%. That's actually higher than I thought it was going to be. I was
Same
thinking
here.
somewhere. I'm thinking it was going to be like 10 to 15. 19 is kind of high. I mean, maybe they saw some stuff in it that, you know, other people didn't see, but I think it was a little bit high on that because just critic-wise. Fans, Jeremy. Fans.
25%.
25%.
Again, like I said, this movie was kind of like the Tremors of the Friday the 13th series. So that's why fans liked it. You know, it didn't do well at the box office at all, but DVD sales, man, went through the roof. Everybody bought it. So I think if you're I could watch this movie again and have fun with it.
Yeah, this is like I said on the last podcast, I believe, the last episode when we were talking about Jason Goes to Hell. Jason Goes to Hell is going to be a movie that I'm not going to sit down and rewatch. Just like sit down and rewatch. It's not going to happen. If I'm watching a marathon of movies, if I'm watching a Friday the 13th marathon, yes, I will watch it. I don't have it's not like a ich. It's not like an ich movie that I'm just going to skip it. Okay, it's not that bad. Like I want to do with like 90% of the Leprechaun films.
Oh, I can't wait.
But
I'm so excited.
it's not gonna movie. I'm just gonna sit there and go, what do I want to watch tonight? How about Jason Goes to Hell? That's not gonna happen. It's gonna be part of the marathon, or it's not being watched at all. This movie, I can actually sit down and go, you know what? I need a drink, I need to unwind, and I need Jason X. I need Uber Jason, because life does not always need to be serious, guys. Life doesn't need to be serious.
It's very true.
It needs more comedy, like Evil Dead 2, which we'll get to at some point.
Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for tonight. Like we said, you know, Movie Night Monday, we'll be doing Freddy versus Jason this week, so come on down. We'll be enjoying it.
Next week, Jeremy, not this week. Next week.
Oh, this coming Monday.
This upcoming Monday.
We will see y'all next Wednesday, same time, same campfire. You all stay safe. Have a great night.
Later.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.
Welcome to my nightmare.
We're not safe awake or asleep.
Why won't you die? Freddy versus Jason.
Place your bets.